Another feature of Clutched Up today, where we bring you a breakdown of config CT for a change, and specifically his mobilizing of self on the CT half. Config, known for his aggression and great entrying, showed us he is not just a one-trick double pony. He in fact showed us a masterclass of nuke defending on the CT side. For every def that he had over 2 kills, with an ADR of 129 as well. Definitely a game to break down further for you enthusiasts. This also assisted them in Astralis' move into the major. Config definitely has a set routine that would be considered his default mode, but on top of this, he is very responsive to activity towards other parts of the map. Both outside pressure towards secret, and ramp pressure towards B. He will have a similar response to both, but swayed towards either side of map of course, and we shall break down this later on. But this responsiveness and mobility leads to him going towards the highly contended areas, as effectively the CT wall. Let's break down what I consider his default, and then I can highlight all of his good decisions in this match. Often smoking off the door and nading it first thing. This allows him to check in towards door and clear it when things get quiet, opening up the potential for a silent lobby push as well, as there is no longer a door to be opened. He will often tuck towards this vent early on in case of the T push, but not often expecting any real pressure. He plays here when he expects maybe a random lurk. Doing this, he can find a free kill. From here, we are already out of his default habits. We saw when Astralis expected some weak rushes too, where Config would molly the door instead, but this was less important in this match. His actual secret real default is just kind of mobilizing around the map. And this is around the mid to late game, where there is no pressure. Leaving Glaive often with his nades, and in this round, he knows the T's have low money. As he sees that door is clear after picking up this peg, he decides to move towards lobby to investigate. He knows that if there are people near door or lobby and it's just one, often the other half of the team is kind of upstairs setting up their nades. Config decides to push and ends up finding more kills as a result of this choice, winning out the round. During this match, there are times where after he sets up on A and things settle, outside will be pressured. Config's response to this would be rotating down vent towards secret. Multiple times we can see him do this against HEET, and its impact is tremendous. When suspecting the secret aggression, here we see Config's response with simply holding down secret and lapping up the kills. In the next round, we see Config, mid to late round, also end up back down secret. This time he smokes it off, in which he forces HEET to turn around and go straight into Farlig. Even though he gets the most frags on this half, he has even more impact by getting his other teammates easy frags as well. What is interesting to note about that round is he actually begins it with a different response than going straight to secret. Because the T's were quiet as a whole, Config had the balls to just walk into lobby. If there's often no immediate contact, Config knows that the setup is likely elsewhere, or the T's are super far back, being careful pushing into the lobby as a result. Eventually, he gets caught, and this is where he ended up down secret. But in other rounds in this game, we see how happy he is to take his own contact into lobby as well. Here he has done his usual activities but gets pretty low. He's going to be useless in a hold for A because he's so low, so he gives Glaive all of his nades, apart from a flash which he always keeps on him, and begins to push the door and amazingly finds 3 kills. At this level, we can really see how happy Config is just to pressure lobby simply because of the lack of options the T's have, and how committed the T's usually are on their own setup. Splitting up on Nuke is notoriously difficult as a T. Again, any silence we can see Config meet with a push towards lobby thus far this game. Now, let's talk about his responses to when the T's actually determine the pace, and he of course has to be more reactionary. On a rough buy, we actually see this very common smoke come out of the T's, and Config sees this as an opportunity to push. And he does it perfectly just coming in after Lucky, and unluckily for Lucky, he finds his head. When the T's decide to take ramp as well, Config responds with immediately heading down to decon. This happens on round 3, and we can tell that Zip is communicating across that the T's are progressing on B, and we see Config eventually head back up when the T's slow down and don't fully commit. So they think, as Astralis, that HEET may attempt to go to heaven, and this leads to config going back up to A. This just emphasises this mobility that I believe was just absolutely key for config getting all these frags on the CT half, and having such a substantial CT side. And now I want to leave you with, well, the creme de la creme. When Glaive calls around perfectly for config, we can see that in this round there's clearly a protocol in play. There is a suspicion that there's going to be a heavy A hit, and we get this out of config. He will remain on the A side, behind Silo, holding a Molotov to take contact. When he does take this contact from HEET, he mollies HUT and immediately swings to the left of Silo, and not the right. He does this because the T's are going to have to be sitting in the Molotov to take contact on config, or be running out of the Molotov, so these are easy kills for him. When he's dealt with the left side, he then goes to the right side to the isolated T's if they pushed out further. To take away the important things from this game and how config clutched up, his relentless and calculated pushes gave him a superb CT side. His instincts on when to push lobby, his fast responses to pressure on other sides of the map, and well-ingrained protocols led him and Astralis to success against HEET. And we're definitely going to see a lot more of this in future Nuke games. This was a fun match to watch and a fun breakdown to do as well, so if you want more, just remember to subscribe, and I'll catch you all in the next one.